Welcome back everyone to episode 3. We have now covered knockdown shields, body shields, backpacks, and helmets in episode 1, heat shields, respawn beacons, healing items, and the ring in episode 2. This episode will cover weapons and weapon attachments. Let's dive in. So what weapon should you use and what weapon should you avoid? The fast answer is use the R301, R99, and the Volt. GG, easy, see you in the next video. The Volt can be used as a primary or as a replacement for the R99. Remember that you will find other guns easy to use, but the time to kill is king. These 3 guns kill the fastest. Technically, the Alternator and Flatline kill as fast as the R301, but they are far worse at range. The R301 can be lethal close-up and at range, while the Alternator and the Flatline are only really good at close-up. While the Volt ties the R99 for the fastest TTK in the game and can act as a makeshift assault rifle, the R99 gives the benefit of an easier to find ammo and a faster firing rate. The faster firing rate means missing shots will not destroy the time to kill, but at the same time it also means you need to reload a lot more often. As always, the meta is what you hit your shots with, but around the platinum rank or even high gold rank, the weapons that kill the fastest will be required. I recommend practicing now, otherwise you'll be forced to switch and practice at a far higher skill level, and I expect this to cause many players to rage quit, so you should probably just start using them now. With that out of the way, let's cover what weapon attachments do. All of them are important, but prioritize extended mags and barrel stabilizers. There are 3 tiers of stabilizers, and not all guns can take them. Stabilizers reduce recoil and make the recoil patterns more predictable and controllable. Expect less horizontal and vertical recoil as you get better stabilizers. I won't bore you with the exact numbers, just make sure that your longest range gun has the best stabilizer. Exceptions are the longbow. The gun you plan to use the most will always be the best option, but the higher the rarity, the more the stabilizer does. Up next are shotgun bolts and shotguns because they kind of go hand in hand. Shotgun bolts increase the rate of fire of the shotgun, so if you look up the rate of fire of a gun on Apex Legends at apexlegends.fandom.com, that is the maximum fire rate that the gun can achieve. This includes the level 3 shotgun bolt, and level 3 bolts are hard to find. I do not ever recommend using a shotgun. The time to kill is just too slow, and even with level 3 bolt and max damage per shot, on top of a horrible range and laughable hipfire. Shotguns have been fundamentally developed not to beat SMGs such as the Volt and R99. Something is to be said about point blank ease of use, however this is too situational for me. I recommend this style of play just be avoided. If you must use a shotgun, use the EVA 8 and do not aim down sights. Aiming down sights will increase the spread of the pellets and reduce your movement speed. The Mastiff will require aiming down sight to be effective because it doubles the range by doing so. However, the time to kill to the body is now slower than the EVA 8. So no matter how fast you kill someone with a shotgun, you could have done it faster with most of the other guns in the game. Moving on to extended mags, there are 4 types of extended mags for each ammo type, and the ammo types are light, heavy, energy, and sniper. Each tier of mag will add rounds to your base magazine up to level 3. Purple and gold mags will have the same ammo count, but gold magazines will reload the gun automatically when it is not being held in your hand for at least 5 seconds. White level 1 mags will add very little rounds to your mag, but always take them. There are no downsides to any extended mags. Blue level 2 mags will add slightly more ammo compared to level 1 mags, and a good amount more than the base magazine capacity, but they will also reduce the reload time by 5%. Violet level 3 mags will add slightly more ammo than a level 2 blue, but a large amount over the base and level 1 mags. Always take these as a high priority loot item and attempt to always have this mag or better for both your guns by the end game. This mag will also reduce your reload time by 10%. Gold level 4 mags will do everything the level 3 magazine does, as well as auto reload when the weapon is stowed for 5 seconds or more. This is defined as placing the weapon on your back or having no weapon in your hands at all, and you can do that by holding the weapon swap button. Holding no gun also allows you to move faster. Standard stocks and sniper stocks make aiming faster and easier. They improve your weapon swap speed, weapon holstering speed, and reduce your sprint out time. Your weapon swap speed is the time it takes to swap from your current weapon to your next weapon, and your weapon holstering speed is the time it takes to go from having a gun in your hand to having only your hands, and then back to holding your gun. Your sprint out time is the time it takes to stop sprinting and fire. Finally, both stocks will reduce the aim drift that you get from aiming down sight, but sniper stocks will also reduce the speed of the aim drift as well. The better the stock, the better these improvements become. Level 3 standard stocks reduce your ADS speed by 25%, reduce the time it takes to switch weapons by 25%, reduce the sprint out time by 20%, and reduce aim drift by 45%. Level 3 sniper stocks will do the same thing, except they reduce aim drift by 85% and reduce drift speed by 20%. The takeaway is always equip a sniper stock to a sniper rifle, and then use standard stocks on LMGs first, then ARs, and then SMGs. Next up is optics, and generally speaking, this is all preference. You can edit the look sensitivity of each specific magnification in the sensitivity settings. For instance, if you prefer low power optics at high sensitivity and high power optics at low sensitivity, you can adjust certain magnitudes to be lower or higher than others. If that's too far for you, then you can have everything be the same sensitivity, but if you want to go as far to have 3 different sensitivity settings, then you can. You could have one for when you're just looking around with your camera, not ADS, a second for when you're ADSing with low power optics, and a third for when you're ADSing with high power optics. It's important to note that there are some optics that have different magnifications because they're variable zoomed, and your sensitivity settings will be taken into account when using certain features of these variable zoom optics. This means that when using one optic, you can have the 4x be one sensitivity and the 10x be a different sensitivity, and that will work on the 4 to 10 scope. We're going to move on to hop-ups as well. In Season 9, there are 4 hop-ups: Anvil Rounds, Turbochargers, Scatter Caps, and Deadeye Tempo. The Turbocharger will remove 400 milliseconds from the time it takes for the Devotion to reach max rate of fire, and it will remove the open bolt delay from the Havoc, which also takes 400 milliseconds. The Anvil Rounds will trade a fast time to kill on the Flatline and 301 for harder hitting shots. Anvil Rounds double the body damage by firing 2 shots at the same time. The rate of fire is severely reduced and recoil is increased, so be sure not to keep an eye just on your mag capacity, but also your total ammo. Anvil Rounds can blow through 100 rounds faster than you realize. The 240 rounds I recommend carrying for the 301 takes into account the Anvil Rounds. Just make sure to top up by the mid game. Shatter Caps are new and will convert the bow and the 30-30 into a shotgun. Currently I have no way of testing this, so time will tell if it's good or not. Deadeye Tempo is new as well, and when fired at the correct time repeatedly, the hop-up will increase the rate of fire of the bow and the Sentinel. I expect this to be fairly useless on the Sentinel and moderately useful on the bow. Now we're finally at guns. So what are the best guns in the game? Well, to recap, you will need to master the R301, the Volt, and the R99. Till then, other guns that will serve you best are the Prowler, a turbocharged Havoc, the Flatline, the Hemlock, the RE45, and the Alternator. Why those guns? Well, all those guns have a time to kill under 1.4 seconds, most under 1.3. Generally speaking, all those guns will be about 200 milliseconds faster or more than any other guns in the game. If we look at the time it takes to kill a 200 health target to the body, this is how those guns rank. This time includes the time it takes to ADS. Hipfire does not guarantee 100% accuracy and is quite bad for most guns in Apex, therefore it's not a fair comparison. These numbers indicate who would win if both players ADS at the same time, perfectly track, and fire as soon as they can. Coming in first is the Hemlock at 1.14 seconds. Second is the Prowler at 1.6 seconds. Third are the R99 and the Volt tying at 1.18 seconds. Fourth is the Turbocharged Havoc at 1.28 seconds. Fifth is the Flatline at 1.3 seconds. Sixth is the R301 at 1.34 seconds. Seventh is the RE45 at 1.36 seconds. Eighth is the Alternator at 1.38 seconds, and ninth is the Spitfire at 1.46 seconds. The first thing you should notice is that the Hemlock is at number 1, and I didn't recommend it. There's a reason for that. It's hard to use. The amount of recoil and the amount of attachments that need to be used for it to be viable make it hard to recommend. It's also a burst fire weapon with a very long burst delay. This means a very unforgiving time to kill, where missing even 1 to 2 shots is enough to require another burst, which completely ruins the advantage. The second thing to notice is that the Prowler only spawns in the care package and has a limited ammo count. I recommend taking it over the R99 and the Volt, but only as a secondary. Do not drop the R301 for this or run this with an R99. The Prowler is a 5-round burst when picked up, but it can be switched to fully automatic. This gun is the most accurate in 5-round bursts, but will lose its time to kill potential. If you must hipfire the Prowler, it does amazing in bursts and will get severely penalized for going full auto. Feathering the trigger in full auto will be the best bet, unless you can ADS and stay on target. This means that the R99 and the Volt are the first 2 guns that spawn on the ground and are viable enough to be used. Continuing down the list, I do not recommend the Havoc for a variety of reasons. First and foremost, you must have a gold tier item to make it competitive. This is rare and the gun will get you killed unless you have it. Secondly, the recoil. It does not take a stabilizer, and running the Havoc at range can be hard. It has high first shot recoil, which throws you off target and gets better the longer you shoot. It helps that it gets better the longer you shoot, however this is enough to miss your chance at damage and blow through lots of ammo. Close up this can be easy to manage, but you get killed against the R99 and the Volt, which need nothing to kill the fastest. Overall, it takes too long to get it built, and if you do, you die close up and have terrible range. Close behind the Havoc is the Flatline. This can be used with great success, and headshots are especially deadly. However, this does not take a stabilizer, so it faces the same struggles at range as the Havoc. Close up, this can beat most guns in the game, but it loses to the R99 and the Volt, which again are common choices for most players. So the Flatline is better and easier to set up than the Havoc, but still can't compete against skilled players at range and loses to them up close. The Havoc and the Flatline could be really viable options if they had a time to kill significantly faster than the R301, but unfortunately it's very close and basically negligible. Which leads us to the R301, the king of Apex Legends, a laser with a level 3 stabilizer, and has the best time to kill for guns equipped at range combat. Your biggest threat is a Spitfire hitting headshots or close range combat against an R99 or a Volt. This gun is only 40 milliseconds behind the Flatline and 42 milliseconds behind the Havoc. That's less than 1/20th of a second. You will hit more shots than them, and 9.9 times out of 10 you win. This is why I recommend this gun over the rest. Next is what I call the R99 and Volt training wheels. The RE45 and the alternator. The RE45 actually has more recoil than the R99, so tread lightly, and the alternator is just a makeshift Volt/301 until you can find one. So you can do fine, but again, after a certain level of play, you just lose. This leaves a gun that is constantly getting nerfs it does not need, the Spitfire. This is over 250 milliseconds behind the R99 and the Volt, or a quarter of a second, and 100 milliseconds behind the R301. It's enough to get you killed in certain levels of play, but what makes the Spitfire an interesting choice is the magazine size and the time it can sustain fire. The Spitfire can sustain fire for 6 seconds with the highest level magazine, but if you play Rampart, that time goes up because it goes from 55 rounds to 63 rounds. Now 6 seconds is a very long time, and if you remember when we covered gold magazines in our previous video, it only takes 5 seconds of having the gun put away for it to reload. This means that 2 Spitfires, both with gold magazines, can sustain fire for 12 out of 13 seconds. Thankfully, finding 2 gold heavy mags can be a pretty daunting task. But this is what gives the Spitfire its power, the ability to not reload. Reloading is the biggest reason you will die in Apex Legends, and gold mags and the Spitfire are the ways to stop reloading and beat people close up and at range with sheer mag size. So although this can be recommended for beginning players, there are a significant number of cons that make it not the best at high skill level play. Most importantly, the Spitfire has very poor hip fire, but good enough for point blank, but anything other than like at the end of your gun, you're not going to want to do it. The Spitfire also only fires around 7 shots per second, which is pretty slow, so missing shots will ruin the time to kill, but not enough that missing 3 or 4 will get you killed, assuming they don't swap weapons. If they must reload and can't swap weapons, you could miss around 10 shots and still win. It also has a very slow ADS speed and very slow ADS movement speed. By far, the worst thing of all is the reload speed. Without a gold magazine, it takes very long to reload. Now, the gold magazine will take longer than the reload itself, but the main issue with the reload speed is that if you don't have a gold magazine, there's no way to skip it. Being able to holster your gun, fire your other gun, and throw some grenades is a really easy way to make sure that your gun is reloaded before you need it. But moving on, if you have a gun that isn't one of those 9, I highly recommend dropping it by the mid-game for any gun on the list above. More specifically, the Spitfire, the R301, the R99, the Volt, the Prowler, the Alternator, or the Flatline. The only sniper I recommend using is the Kraber from the care package for its one-shot headshot potential. Shotguns are very easily beaten by an R99 or Volt, keeping 10 meters away, and you will win that fight every time. The only way you lose is if you can't stay on target. The Peacekeeper can be great, it has high damage per shot, but a horrible time to kill. Peeking from cover is the only way to win with a Peacekeeper, being caught out in the open will get you killed. Using aim down sight will charge the Peacekeeper and greatly reduce the pellet spread. At max charge, it can allow for 80 damage or more at 50 meters. This takes over a second to do, making the time to kill horrible. An R301 will easily beat you, and close up so will an R99. It's better than the Mastiff and situationally good like the Eva, but again, given how versatile the R99 and the Volt are, and how much faster they are than shotguns, I cannot recommend using shotguns. Finally, we need to explain why I don't recommend snipers. It's kind of a tragedy, and it's been this way in Apex since launch. The triple take will be in the care package with the Kraber this season, and frankly the triple take is a better shotgun than a sniper. It takes 1.1 seconds for the shots to charge, and charging tightens the spread to make the 3 shots that fire act more like a single shot. This does not make it a single shot. At far enough ranges they do still split. Each shot hits for 23 damage, totaling 69 damage if all 3 shots hit. The rate of fire essentially becomes less than 1 shot per second, and when it takes 3 to 4 shots to the body to kill, that makes a painfully slow TTK. Every sniper in the game has a time to kill ranging from 2.79 seconds to upwards of 4 seconds, and that is just against 200 health targets. 225 health targets make some take upwards of 5 seconds to the body. Couple that long TTK with multiple enemies, plenty of cover for them to heal, and multiple legends that can quickly close distance, and you have a recipe for needing 2 close range guns and not just 1. To make matters worse, the time it takes for bullets to travel long distances, meaning 100 plus meters, is absurdly long, easily taking between 233 and 267 milliseconds, averaging a quarter of a second. With the fastest 200 meter sniper shot taking 400 milliseconds, that's almost half a second. Not only at range do they have cover, mobility, and time to close the distance for them to use R301s against you, but in order to stop your death, you not only have to hit multiple headshots on multiple enemies, you're lucky to even hit those shots at all. I encourage you to count all the time sniping at 100 meters or more works out and how often it just gets you killed. The only saving grace is the Kraber being a one-shot kill to the head with a body TTK of 2.25. However, the Kraber also comes with a 6 to 10x scope that you cannot remove, and when paired with the slowest bullets in the game, they make the high power scope completely useless. On top of that, you cannot remain aimed in once you fire, you must reacquire your targets after every shot, making it one of the most difficult guns in the game to use. But there you have it. Every gun I recommend and why. Do what you can on drop, but look for those key guns and you will do far better than before, I promise you. Avoid shotguns and snipers at all costs if you want to win. The R301 will be your savior, and make sure you manage those reloads and stay on target. As always, I hope you learned something. Don't forget to subscribe for more videos like this. Leave a like so you can find this video easier in the future, and follow us on Twitch to watch us live.